Colossians 3:17. And whatsoever you do in word or deed, we're doing it again. Do all in the name of BaHasham Hamashayach, giving thanks to the Father and the Heavenly Son, YAHAWAH BaHasham. So with Purim, we're going to go over that today. The topic today is called Purim, in thy sickness be not negligent. All right. So Purim, it's a memorial festive day to commemorate our victory over the Edomites in the Persian captivity. So we're going to read and go straight to the point. We're going to go into the book of Esther, chapter 9, because she was our queen at that time. It was the first Israelite queen we ever had, but she was not a queen in our land of Israel. She was a queen in the land of Persia, under a Persian king, not an Israelite king. All right. So the Persian king married queen. I must just give you a little small story on it so we don't have to read the whole book. But the Persian king had an audition for a new wife. And it's kind of like what they do in India today. They still do that. They have maybe 20 to 30 women come out to their young men and they have an audition. They interview them. This is their practice. They interview them to find out which woman they're going to marry. They don't date. They don't do any of that. They just get married. Basically, the children were raised to be the way they are. Basically, the father grooms the daughter all the way up until she's adult to marry a certain son. So, I mean, this is a tradition that the Persians do, and they're still continuing this tradition today. Nothing has really changed except those who are Americanized. Esther was one of the ones who were chosen. She was chosen out of all the land to be the wife of King Xerxes. She never told her true identity to the king. She never elaborated on what tribe she came from or any of that until the end, when her whole Israelite community was in jeopardy. So we have to understand, too, during this time, the Persian king controlled all the land. Like America, we have Donald Trump. He controls all 52 states. The king of Persia was the same way. He controlled all the land. Basically, to help you understand, the land of Iraq, the land of Iran, the land of Saudi Arabia, the land above that, all the way up until where the Macedonians resided, is where the king controlled all of that Middle East. Okay? He controlled it all. And so he had provinces in all those different countries. And Queen Esther was over all of them. And there were Israelites in every last one of them. Okay? And so we're going to go to Esther 9, chapter 9, verse 1. And it reads, Now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandments and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Israelites hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Israelites had ruled over them that hated them. Why? Because there was an Edomite dwelling amongst them who was second in command. He was like Pence under Trump. He was the vice president. Okay? He had got elected to be up under the Persians, and he remembered his history of his forefathers, which came out of Amalek or Esau. And he remembered that King Saul of the Israelites was supposed to kill all the Amalekites. So he remembered that when he got above everyone else. And so he made a decree, a law, to kill all the Israelites on a certain day. He slipped it up under, he passed this law under the king's nose. The king didn't even think about it. But Mordecai, I'm giving you just a little prologue. Mordecai was the queen's uncle who read all the newspapers all the time. He was always up on game. He read in this particular decree that a law had been passed to kill all the Israelites. And so when he read that law, he quickly summoned his niece, who was the queen of Persia, and told her what was going on. And so she confronted the king, and the king did what we're about to read. All right, let's read down to 5. Verse 2. The Israelites gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king of Xerxes to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people. And all the rulers of the provinces and the lieutenants and the deputies and the officers of the king helped the Israelites, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out through all the provinces. For this man Mordecai, Queen Esther's uncle, waxed greater and greater. Why? Because he revealed the wickedness of the Edomite Haman. He revealed that wickedness. Verse 5. Thus the Israelites smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter, and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them. So he gave the Israelites power over all the Edomites. So you got to understand, when we read these books or these stories or these children books, they speak about Haman being this evil man in the king's kingdom, and Queen Esther had the victory over Haman. But what the little children books and what these movies and these stories don't portray is that Haman was a spy of the Amalekites. He was an Edomite, okay? And because he was a spy, he had his people all throughout the provinces that we just spoke about. Every province, there were Edomites hanging out in these areas. So not only did Haman die, but all the Edomites got slewed. So you're talking about hundreds and thousands of Edomites. This is what they never show you on these biblical movies. That it was a whole slew of people that got killed by the Edomites because of Haman. Not only did Haman's 10 sons die, but all the Edomites. All right? Who was that? Who also went by different names, such as Agagites or Amalekites. Agagites, they called themselves Agagites after the king Agag. King Agag was the king that Saul was supposed to slay. So they called themselves after their king, Agagite, for revenge of the Israelites, to get revenge on the Israelites. Okay, so this is very important. You have to understand what we're reading. You have to remember what we're reading. Verse 5, let's read that again. Thus the Israelites smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto these that hated them. See that? So you got to remember, the Most High said he loved Jacob. And how did he feel about Esau? It says, and he hated Esau. So Esau hated the Israelites. They hated us. So when you read verse 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, it's talking about all the Israelites taking up sword in every province and county or parish and killing the Edomites. This is what went on. Verse 12, and the king said unto Esther, the queen, the Israelites have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan, the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman. What they have done in the rest of the king's provinces. He said, what did they do in the rest of the king's provinces if they did this? Now, what is your petition? And it shall be granted you. He said, if that is not enough, I give you more power. You're my wife. I'm going to let you do whatever you want. If that is not enough. And it reads, and it shall be granted you. Or what is thy request further? And it shall be done. This king loved his wife so much that he wanted to destroy the Edomites too for what they was trying to do, kill her and her people. That was a threat. So you have to understand when it says in the palace of Shushan, y'all got to understand that word Shushan. We're gonna go into that word Shushan after we read verse 12. Well, we read it. We're going to go into that. All right. So the stories of Queen Esther is correct in this book, but all the movies and cartoons and plays are all false. So here's another false episode of what these people in this country are portraying. Christianity is portraying a false episode of the Bible by not speaking what truly happened during this time. We got the victory over our enemy, and gallows were put up to hang all the Edomites as well as being destroyed by the sword. All right. So I want to speak on this word Shushan. If you have a Bible dictionary, I want you to get your Bible dictionary, compact Bible dictionary. And if you don't have one, I'm going to read what I have in my compact Bible dictionary. Check out this word Shushan. And just think about the Edomites, because you got to understand, this is during the time of the Persians. Okay. And so the Persians and me. So by them ruling, they controlled everything. The Edomites didn't have a place or a foot to stand. We didn't have a place or a foot to stand, but they had to dwell somewhere. And prior to this victory of the Persians and the Medes, there was another kingdom that was dwelling in the earth, and it was Elam, the East Indians. All right, so let's read this real quick. This is in the Compact Bible Dictionary. And I went to Shushan. There's two definitions, but mainly I want the second definition. And it reads, the Greeks called this place Susa. So when you read through the Bible and you hear the word Susa, it's not saying Shushan. It's the same thing. It's Shushan. Susa and Shushan are the same. It was located in a fertile valley on the left bank of the Chops River, called Ulai in Daniel 8:2. This is where Daniel stood and had the vision. It enjoyed a very delightful climate. It was think about this, a very delightful climate. Now, Esau was dwelling in the caves of where? Seir, Mount Seir, and then the Caucasus Mountains. But this was a very nice climate area, nice, cool area. It was right by the Persian Gulf. Okay, the Persian Gulf. If you look at the Persian Gulf, right above the Persian Gulf is Iran, which is like up under the belly of Iran is the Persian Gulf. You have Iraq to the other side. You have Kuwait. You have the United Arab Emirates a little lower than the Persian Gulf. You have the U.S. ships over there too. They're able to patrol that part of the Gulf. You also have U.S. aircraft carrier constellations in that area. This is still a highly sought out area by the Edomites. They still want this Fertile Crescent area. This is very significant to the world, what's going on today. Very significant. Okay, so you had Elam right above it, and Babylon. And then above both of those, you had Media and Persia. Okay, which is now today called Iran. Right? So this was an area where they found comfort. Just like today, you look at America, this is a place of comfort. When they went to Europe, that was a place of comfort to them. It wasn't that hot, it's nice and cool, cold even. That was a place of comfort for them. It says, many Israelites lived here and became prominent in the affairs of the city, as the books of Esther and Nehemiah show. From this city was sent the group who replaced those removed from Samaria, Ezra 4:9. Now, remember who was removed from Samaria? Before the Ethiopians were moved into that place, we got moved out of that place. Okay? So we just have to understand what the scriptures are saying, that all of the historical things that went on is compounded on this story, as well as what's going on now. Jeremiah speaks about Elam's destruction before the Persians come about. I'm just giving you a little history. The book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah 49 and 35. It reads, thus saith the Most High of Hosts, behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. And upon Elam will I bring the four winds. Y'all know what the four winds are. Military mights. From the four quarters of heaven. Remember, everything's written in similitude, so you won't understand it if you're just reading it, unless you have understanding. It says, and will scatter them towards all those winds, towards the different militaries. And there shall be no nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come. For now you know who Elam is. Before you read this, you didn't know who Elam was. Elam's the East Indians. For I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies, and before them that seek their life, and I will bring evil upon them. Even my fierce anger, saith the Most High. And I will send the sword after them till I have consumed them. And I will set my throne in Elam, when I will destroy from thence the king of the princes, saith the Lord. What throne did he put in Elam? The Persians and the Medes. That's the kingdom that came down like four winds and destroyed the East Indians. The Iranians came and destroyed them. So you can understand. But it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam. So the Elamites went into captivity. Just so you can understand what's going on. Jeremiah prophesied about it. So when you read a lot of these prophets, you have to understand before the Persians came into power, Jeremiah was here, Ezekiel was here, Daniel was here, Ezra was here, Haggai was even here. Okay, all these books came before Esther. So you read the book of Esther thinking that this whole book is in chronological order, but it's not. So you read about Esther. When you read about Nehemiah and Ezra, that's before. That's right after Daniel. That's right after Ezekiel. That's right after Jeremiah, which is way ahead of time. Okay. So this is what we have to understand. So Esther pops on the scene at the end before the kingdom gets destroyed by the Greeks. Haman was more of a spy for the Edomites. Okay, when we read that he was a Haggagite, or from, in the Apocrypha it says Agite. Let's go to the Apocrypha real quick. I want to show you something. Let's go to Esther in the Apocrypha, and let's go to chapter 16. Chapter 16 and verse 10. Esther 16 and 10. If you can find it. Esther 16 and 10. It's going to be after the book of Judith, which is after the book of Tobit, which is after the book of Ezra's. Okay? Ezra's, Tobit, Judith, Esther. All right? So Esther chapter 16, verse 10, it reads, for Haman, a Macedonian, so Haman was a Macedonian. Do you understand what that means? That means that he was a Greek. He was a Greek. The Macedonians were the Greeks. This is so for Haman, a Macedonian, the son of Amathatha, being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood, meaning he was not of Persian descent. He's a stranger, meaning he's of another nation. He's an Edomite. And far distant from our goodness, far distant from who we are as the Israelites. He's not of our blood. And as a stranger received of us. We received him, but he didn't receive us. Meaning we probably voted this dude in. You know what I mean? Just like today we vote people in. That's why we say don't vote. You vote these people in, you don't know their agenda. It could be to kill us all off. So Haman was a stranger. He wasn't of our kind. He wasn't of the Persians. That's why the king of Persia did what he did. He was like, he's not none of our kin folks. Kill this man. All right. So when you go to, in the Apocrypha, go to Maccabees. Go to the first book of Maccabees. And go to chapter 1. And let's read verse 1. Now check this out. This is why this stuff is not in the King James 1611 Bible. This is why. It says, and it happened. After that, Alexander, son of Philip, you all know who Alexander the Greek is. After that, Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, you see that? Who came out of the land of Chittim and smited Darius, the king of the Persians and Medes. He killed the king of Persia. This is fast forwarding into the future. That he reigned in the stead, the first over Greece, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. So the so-called white man finally emerged. He finally came and conquered. So as you can see, you're talking about thousands of years, man. 1,000 years or less that the king, that Alexander the Greek cousin, great cousin, Haman in the province of Queen Esther was trying to kill them all back then. So he was a spy. The Macedonians were waiting. They were in wait. They were just being created. They were just starting to form up in Europe. The Greeks and the Macedonians. These were the Edomites. They were waiting to pounce down on that area which was the Fertile Crescent, which was a beautiful place. See? We have to understand history, brothers and sisters, and the Bible tells us all that went down. If we don't see it or understand it, we won't get it. Let's read Esther chapter 9, verse 12. We're going to read this part, and we're going to get to the bottom of 9 and 12. We're going to read down to verse 28. And then Esther chapter 9, and let's read 12 on down. All right, and it reads, let's start at 13. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Israelites which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also, meaning in the land of Shushan, where all these Edomites dwell, can you have my people kill them? According unto this day's decree. She was trying to rush the law that he had just signed. And let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows. And the king commanded it so to be done. And the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan. But on the prey they laid not their hand. But the other Jews, that you got to understand when it says, but on the prey they laid not their hand. The prey are the Edomites, but they didn't have to kill them. They had other men that wanted to jump over the Israelites to help them get to these men. Remember what we read in verse 3? It says, and all the rulers of the provinces and the lieutenants and the deputies and the officers of the king helped the Jews, helped the Israelites. So we didn't have to lay a hand on these people. Other people did it for us. Y'all got to understand that kind of power. We didn't have to do nothing. All we had to do was point. There he is. That's one right there. Go get him. That's all we had to do. Verse 15, but the Israelites that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month of Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan, but on the prey they laid not their hand. But the other Israelites that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew of their enemies 75,000. But they laid not their hands on the prey. Y'all got to understand that. That is heavy. They didn't have to do nothing. On the 13th day of the month Adar, that's like this government giving us the police department and giving us the military. We wouldn't have to do nothing. Just tell the military, hey, man, we got a lot of people over here that we know was wrong to us. Can you go get them? And they go get them. That's what it was like. On the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same, rested they, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. See that? On the 13th day and the 14th day. But the Israelites that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th day thereof, and on the 15th day of the same. So they did it 3 days. So some brothers might be doing it 2 days, the 14th and the 15th. And some brothers and sisters may be doing it the 13th, 14th, and the 15th. So you're not wrong to do it Friday sundown, Saturday sundown, and Sunday sundown. All right, to keep the day of Purim. It says, same day rested and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore, the Israelites of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, a good day, and of sending portions one to another. And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Israelites that were in the provinces of the king of Xerxes, both near and far, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month of Adar and the 15th day of the same yearly. We have to do this yearly. As the days wherein the Israelites rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor. And the Israelites undertook to do as they had begun, as Mordecai had written unto them, because Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemies of all the Israelites, had devised against the Israelites to destroy them, and had cast pur, that is the lots, to consume them and to destroy them. When you read in the Apocrypha, the first chapter, it talks about Mordecai talking about Purim, a lot for a lot. Okay, we had a lot on us, but we turned that lot around and put it on Haman, meaning to cast lots, meaning to grab them and do what you want with them. Remember they cast lots for Christ's garment when he was on the cross? The Romans? They were sitting there, had a dice game. Whoever won was going to win the garment that he wore. And those garments was bad back then. They ain't like what we wearing. They knew how to sew back then. Them garments was tough. They was sewed on the outside and the inside where you couldn't even see the sewn part. Verse 25. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked device which he devised against the Israelites should return upon his own head, that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. Wherefore they call these days Purim, after the name of Pur. All right? So Pur means lots, means lot, one lot. But when you put the yum on the end of it, y'all know when you say like ak yum, ak means brother. When you put the yum on it, it means brothers. It's plural. So Purim means lots, plural. Therefore, for all the words of this letter and of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Israelites ordained and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail that they would keep these 2 days according to their writings, and according to the appointed time every year, and that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Israelites, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed. So this is a story of Purim. Now you should have a better understanding. We didn't read the whole entire story, but I gave you more of an understanding of what happened and the significance of our enemies on how they were trying to kill us and basically form a military government against us, and also be spies for the Greeks who were up in Macedonia. Okay, so all of this is important to know. Even the land where they were dwelling in Shushan being a very calm and cool place for the Edomites to dwell. You look at Australia. Who's down in Australia? Who's running Australia? That's like a middle zone for Edomites. It's like a hiding ground for them. You know, they go to Australia, they buy up all the land there. The natives of Australia are pushed way out in the woods somewhere. You know what I mean? Now when you see Australia, you don't see the natives, you see nothing but Edomites with these different dialects. Okay? Everything is changing. So this is how that land was for them back then. That was the first place Alexander the Greek went after, the Persians and the Medes. So it makes sense to you.
Hosts, I took you from the pastures and from following the sheep to be prince over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you have gone and have destroyed all the enemies in your path. I will make you a great name among the great ones of the earth. I will assign a place for my people in Israel. There I will plant them, and they shall dwell in their own land.